بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رضي الله تعالى عنه وسائر التابعين وعلماء عاملين وأئمة أربعين مجتهدين ومقلدين إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm Khalid Abdullahi, the Amir at Northern Institute, National Commander in 40 of Philadelphia, PA. I just want to give a few reflective thoughts on the current events that are taking place in the Midwest section of America, Ferguson, Missouri, from a Muslim perspective. When these events happen, you had to sit back and give thought to it without being biased or trying to be one-sided, and speaking from a just, from that standpoint. What you find in the community is a lot of frustration on a lot of Muslims on the behalf of frustration with their leaders, because it does seem like a lot of the leaders, haven't spoken on the issue or have any regards to what is taking place. Which there's some truth to it, and then there's some non-truth to it, things that aren't true. So, as a leader myself, I want to reflect and point out a few things from my analyzation of the situation. One that I want to point out is that you're dealing with the same problem. Nothing has changed. For some reason, the American public has went to sleep on the the injustices that has always went on towards the lower class or lower income people, particularly the minority, African American and Latinos. The justice system, where one will receive more time than the other. If you have a person of Caucasian descent get locked up for the same crime, you'll find that the Caucasian person receives less time than the indigenous individual, whether African American or Latino, they get the book thrown at them. So you found that injustice. But this situation isn't just that kind of penal system or that kind of systematic injustice that went on this time. With the systematic injustice went on this time is a reflection of the past, of lynching in the past, that took place back in the early 1900s, which is still taking place now, where randomly, indigenous African American people are being killed and murdered, which you found happened at the Ferguson incident. The people are protesting, seeking some sort of justice from the system, which I don't knock it, but as a Muslim, I must honestly, be honest about the situation. How much justice do you think that you're going to receive from this? When people in the past have died, people protested, and there was no outcome. You look at Amadou Diallo, that happened in New York City, where the man was shot 41 times, where he was only reaching to get his wallet. NYPD has been, doing these kind of incidents, and there's a whole list of names that can just go on and on and on. So the people are begging the tyrant to be just to them. A people who still in the Constitution still consider you 3/5 of a human being. So when you consider somebody not to be a full human being, then that means that human rights in their eyes does not apply to you. So secondly, not to go on too long, but this is the reality of the situation. Secondly, what I've seen also is that there's a lack of organization on behalf of African Americans in general, and then also as individuals. We don't have an agenda. There's no black agenda. This is also apparent. This was an apparent thing that you've seen with this situation, where the youth are out, protesting. There's really no head. There's nobody calling shots. Things start happening, rioting and looting and things like that. Alhamdulillah, there was other organizations who stepped up, like the Nation of Islam, and also like the New Black Panther Party, who stepped up to help guard stores and things like that from being vandalized and etc. However, you still have to have a head. And historically, with our African American diaspora here in the Western Hemisphere, the Muslims play a very important role. they've always played an important role, especially when you do the history about Bahia, Brazil, which is now the main city, Rio de Janeiro, where you had slave revolts there, and at the head of the slave revolts, it was the Muslims who organized it, with the non-Muslims from the different tribes, because they spoke different dialects, that the Arabic was the connecting language that connected all of the different tribes together so that they could try to liberate themselves from that type of oppression. So, in my opinion, that the Muslims, they have to play a role in certain things that are happening, but our role, there's a role that we play, but we just can't be like totally free, to go all the way out. One, it has to be based upon, it has to agree with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what the Prophet ﷺ has to say. So standing up for someone's human rights is in conformity with the Kitab wa Sunnah, with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Secondly, you still can't forget to, even when doing these things, engaging with non-Muslims, where you'll find some of the Muslims, the Sunni Muslim, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, withdraw away from non-Muslims. We have to, especially the African Americans, we have to go back into the communities, right, and service the people, because at the same time, when something happens, you'll find that some of them, a lot of them, our relatives, these are our relatives that we're dealing with, that we have to interact with our relatives and also aid them and assist them. But like I mentioned, those things that which are in conformity with the Kitab wa Sunnah. Not to drift off, and then my third point I want to mention is that an agenda has to be set for the people. The people can't be, one, leaderless, and number two, without an agenda. You have to have an agenda. What is your agenda? If you have an agenda, that's something, a goal that you work towards. And so from this incident, I extracted and understood all of these things, is that the system is a system that is not really built to serve you and I, people of African descent. Secondly, that people can't remain leaderless. You can't continue to go leaderless as Muslim, especially as a Muslim. You have to have a leader. And number two, your leader has to have an agenda which benefits the community in totality and not just as an individual. So the moment that we acknowledge and recognize the fact that we cannot continue to be disunited and disenchanted, it has to be an agenda there that we can work on a common goal, and that common goal has to be in conformity with the Kitab wa Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.